Fake people do not raise their voice. They lower your confidence instead. That is the part most people never notice, because manipulation rarely feels like an attack, it feels like a conversation, and by the time you realize what happened, you are the one apologizing. Think about the last time someone said something to you that felt slightly wrong, but you could not explain why. Maybe they smiled while they said it. Maybe they said it so casually that questioning it felt dramatic. That is the first trick. Manipulation hides inside normal sentences, wrapped in a tone that makes you feel like the problem is your reaction, not their words. Here is the first one. I'm just being honest. Real honesty clears the air, it helps you see something you could not see before. But this kind of honesty arrives only when it can hurt you, and disappears the moment you ask for the same honesty back. Notice that. People who truly value truth are consistent with it. People who use it as a weapon only bring it out when it benefits them. Then comes the second phrase. You're too sensitive. This one is quiet, but it is one of the most damaging things a person can say to you, because it does not deny what happened, it just moves the conversation away from what was done and on to how you responded to it. Slowly, without you noticing, you stop asking whether something was wrong, and you start asking whether you are wrong for feeling it. That shift, that small shift, is where your confidence begins to erode. The third one hides behind humor. I was only joking. But watch the order of events carefully. The comment that hurt you came first. The label of joke came after, only once you reacted. A real joke makes both people laugh. This kind of joke leaves one person quiet and the other one protected. That is not humor, that is control wearing a friendly mask. Then there is a phrase built purely on pressure. Nobody else has a problem with it. This is not information, this is persuasion, and its real purpose is to make you feel alone in your own perception. It suggests that your discomfort is the unusual thing, not their behavior. But truth was never decided by a majority vote, and your piece does not need approval from a crowd to be valid. And the fifth one is the most painful, because it is disguised as love. If you really cared, you would. This is not care, this is emotional debt collection. It takes something meaningful, your love, your loyalty, your effort, and uses it as leverage to push you toward self-abandonment. Real care never asks you to shrink. It never asks you to prove yourself by giving up your own boundaries. Now here is the deeper truth beneath all of this. Manipulators do not usually rely on force, because force creates resistance. Instead, they rely on confusion, because confusion creates compliance. If they can make you doubt your memory, your emotions, or your judgment, they no longer need to control you directly. You will control yourself, quietly, out of guilt, out of fear of being difficult, out of the desire to keep peace even when peace was never actually offered to you. This is why the most reliable signal is not what someone says, it is how you feel afterward. Clarity leaves you steady. Confusion leaves you smaller. If a conversation repeatedly leaves you anxious, apologizing, or unsure of your own reality, that pattern deserves attention, even if every individual sentence sounded reasonable on its own. And here is the shift in perspective that changes everything. You do not need to win the argument. You do not need the other person to admit what they did. The moment you stop explaining your feelings to someone who is determined to misunderstand them, their influence over you begins to fade. Not because you have defeated them, but because you have stopped feeding the confusion with your energy. Boundaries are not cruelty. Distance is not bitterness. Recognizing a pattern is not paranoia, it is wisdom earned through experience. Your peace is not something you need to negotiate for. It is something you are allowed to protect. So the next time a sentence leaves you feeling smaller instead of clearer, pause. Ask yourself, not what was said, but what it made you feel, and whether that feeling was earned or manufactured. That single pause is where your power quietly returns to you. If this helped you recognize a pattern you have lived through, stay a little longer, there is more clarity waiting here. And if one of these lines felt familiar, you already know which one. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the clearest gift we can give another person is the words to finally understand what they have been feeling all along.